Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition on a Sunday night of The Ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. And you know what we do at this time. It is time to fire it up with the montage for week number 9. Stan Becton, my guest, will be up in just a minute. Let's go. In Nashville, it was the Western Illinois Leathernecks. They got on the board in OVC Big South play, taking down the Tennessee State Tigers 17-16. On the day, Carswell, say that 2 times fast, 133 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And also, Malini Tia with a 20-yard pick six. This game was won by Antonio Chata, 51-yard field goal with about 7 minutes left in the game. On the effort, Byron McNair, 187 yards in the air. But it wasn't enough for the Tennessee State Tigers as they stay winless in Big South OVC play, 17-16 Leathernecks. Both teams will play Lindenwood 1 week apart. It was homecoming there in Hampton and Monmouth. Even with a backup quarterback. That's right, Derek Robertson was not able to play in this game. Frankie Weaver started. Didn't really need his efforts as he only threw for 122 yards. But guess who also showed up? Rodney Nelson, 33 rushes, 233, 4 touchdowns on the ground for Monmouth, taking out a game Hampton Pirates. But Hampton, they fall to 2-7 on the year, 0-5 in CAA play. 28-10 for Hampton. They get a much-needed bye week before they take on the Maine Black Bears at home in 2 weeks. And how about those North Carolina A&T Aggies getting aboard with another CAA win? Kevin White, 133 in the air. But this game was decided in the fourth quarter. Elijah Kennedy, he returned a 96-yard punt return for a touchdown. But that wasn't enough. On the ensuing kickoff, after the Camels had taken the lead 24-21 with a field goal, he returned the kickoff 85 yards for a touchdown. That's right, North Carolina A&T, they take out the Campbell Fighting Camels. They're back on the board, and next week they'll be able to host Towson to try to win 2 straight. Shout out to those Aggies. It was homecoming there in Norfolk, and South Carolina State for the 3rd time this year take down somebody's homecoming, including their own. Billy Atkins, 24-36, 428 in the air, 4 touchdowns, 2 of them to Jordan Smith. This game broke wide open in the second quarter as they erupted for 35 points and never looked back. Norfolk State, oh man, Otto Coons, he tried, 233 touchdowns in the air, but in the end, 51-20, the Bulldogs, they get off to a MEAC start of 1-0 in Norfolk. They're still scuffling. Next week, South Carolina State gets back home to play Morgan State. Norfolk State, Thursday against Delaware State in the Link in Philadelphia. And they're homecoming there on in the first game, if you might imagine, this late in the season at Green Stadium. It was an overtime affair. It went back and forth and back and forth. Howard takes out Morgan State 33-27 in overtime. Anthony Reagan, part of his 122 yards rushing and 2 TDs. He had the game-winning 25-yarder on their first play of overtime. They're 1-0 in MEAC play, and Morgan State still doesn't have a D1 win this year. Oh, boy. Howard, they get North Carolina Central at home next week while Morgan State goes to South Carolina State. And speaking of Delaware State, some people say this is an upset. This was not a surprise by several, as they go in and they spoil the homecoming there in Durham. 35-26. Caden Bennett, 212 in the air, 3 touchdowns, all 3 to Najee Lally. 5 receptions, 124. Marquise Gillis had 2 on the ground. Oh, offensive display for Delaware State as they ruin the homecoming affair there in Durham as the Eagles fall 35-26. Next week, Delaware State, they get to play Norfolk in Philly. And then NC Central, they go to Howard. It was homecoming there in Prairie View. 38-0 over that team I said I wouldn't say again. Next week, Prairie View, big one against Alabama State. There on the reservation, the Magnolia Bowl this time goes the way of the Alcorn State Braves. Jalen Tolbert, 22 of 32, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, each to Rush, Warren, and Matthews as they keep the Delta Devils winless in SWAC play, and they get on the board in SWAC play. Next week, Alcorn, they go down to Houston to take on Texas Southern coming off a bye week. Valley, they go to Bethune-Cookman. Speaking of Bethune-Cookman, homecoming, they take out the UAPB Golden Lions. Cam Ransom on this day didn't really need it with his arm. He did it with 2 touchdowns on the ground rushing. A little bit of defense, and that equals to a 31-14 win over those Golden Lions. Bethune-Cookman, they stay in position in the East as next week they host Valley. UAPB, they go back home to take on Southern. And in the Magic City Classic, oh man, I knew my team would go down, but not like this. Alabama State, 616 total yards to 143. Andrew Body, 304 in the air, 5 touchdowns and a rush TD. Jalen Jones was game in the effort too. 56-13 for the Bama State Hornets as they keep rolling in the East. Next week, big one, Alabama State going down to play Prairie View, while my Bulldogs, we go to Grambling. Down there on the bluff, it wasn't enough of an effort with Fred McNair taking over the reins on an interim basis. Their offense looked as good as it did all year, but guess what? So did FAMU. 43-25, 43-35 on the effort. RJ Johnson, 287 in the air, rush TD. Jamal Haley? We hadn't heard of him all year. 19 rushes, 157, 3 touchdowns, and a great 43-35 effort down there on the bluff. FAMU, don't look now. They're right in the thick of things in the East. Jackson State comes to them next week while Southern tries to pick up the pieces at Pine Bluff. And last but not least, the upset on the game of the night out there in Vegas. Grambling State on the heels of a Josh McCormick 44-yard field goal with 29 seconds remaining. They take out the champs 26-24. Oh, we're going to talk about this one plenty, y'all. Grambling, ZT said, prayers to you, young man. Great game, 232 in the air, 2 touchdowns in the air, 1 rushing. Jacobian Morgan, he went out of this game early in the first half. And then Jackson State finally found her footing, but too little too late as Grambling gets the upset for the 2nd consecutive year. And that is our montage for tonight. Man, what a day of action. And we're going to get into it pretty well here. What I need everybody to do, I need everybody to hit the like button as I welcome for the first time to my show, Stan Becton. What's up, Stan?
What's up? What's up? You got me hyped up like I'm about to go out there and play a game after hearing that montage, man.
Hey, man. Hey, man. You know, we try to do it big, man, here on the ride. But, man, I appreciate you for, accepting the invitation and coming on this ride, man, this roller coaster that we have, man. And yesterday, it was a complete roller coaster of emotions, man. So we definitely going to get into it. So Jackson State fans, I know, Grambling fans, I know we're going to talk about that game. Trust me, we're going to give y'all plenty of time on that. But the game I want to start with first, Stan, I want to go back here to homecoming there in Durham. Delaware State goes in and plays a complete football game. And, I mean, defense was not necessarily something that anybody looked at when it came to Delaware State, but they had a bend, but do not break approach. And then their offense also, they were leading the world in rushing. And then this game, they broke out the passing attack in a great way. Your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I mean, when you can run the ball like they do, eventually you got to be able to open the pass and have the pass game off of that run game. So just watching, the way Deshaun Jackson was getting those guys to run the ball all season, you knew it was a matter of time before Caden Bennett was able to get something going throwing the ball. I mean, back to his days at not South Dakota State, but Sacramento State, he was throwing the ball out there. So you knew eventually he had what it took to be able to get some passes off. So I mean, I watched that game they played against Monmouth a couple weeks ago, and the way they kept up with that offense when, they had Derek Robertson, who you just mentioned in the montage, wasn't playing against Hampton, but they had him that game, and they were keeping pace with them by running the ball. I was like, okay, when they get to MEAC play, it's going to be hard for these teams to stop them offensively, and we saw that.
Yeah, man, and it was really crazy because as I was watching this game, I was like, wow. I said, okay, Delaware State, they're playing a lot of zone. They said, we'll give you a lot of this underneath stuff. And said, we weren't going to allow you to do anything really over the top. Now, Walker Harris, his numbers was just about on par with the way he's been playing over the last 4 or 5 ball games, 354 and things of that nature. But really what this game really boiled itself down to was that North Carolina Central, they could not find a way to make a couple more plays when they got in scoring range. And in a game like this, and when you play against Delaware State, especially when their offense is rolling like it does, you have to keep up with those guys. Because if you have any empty possessions, that is always going to be the difference in whether you win or whether you lose. But I thought even just through the week, the way Deshaun Jackson's confidence was about this game, he had said it for 2 weeks. And even on the MEAC coaches call that I talked to, that I spend time on Mondays, he said, we're not ducking anybody's smoke. He said, we ready for it. And then, Trey Oliver, he said, hey, we love competition. Well, this one was about competition. But I'll ask you, Stan, in the case of North Carolina Central being a big favorite at the beginning of the year to get to Atlanta, obviously this damages them. But where do you see where Trey Oliver and these guys could possibly go from here, if anywhere at all, man?
Well, I mean, to start the season, it was always, North Carolina Central versus South Carolina State. Which one is going to win that game? Whoever wins that game is going to win the MEAC, represent in the Celebration Bowl. So, I mean, that game is still going to be looming as the season progresses. And then, I mean, you just got to encourage your players like, hey, we got to handle our business. We can't worry about any external factors now. We didn't handle our business that week, so now we can't control our own destiny. But if something does happen, we have to be ready in that situation. You can't have your players out here just score watching and we used to do this when I was playing. Sometimes we used to check our phones before the game, and we had a night game to see what these other teams are doing. You don't want that. You want them to be locked in, ready to win every week. Because, I mean, you got Howard coming up. Then I know you got South Carolina State. Then you got Morgan State, Norfolk State. Those two might not be as challenging, but those next two, I believe they play South Carolina State. I had to look at the schedule after Howard. But, you got Delaware State schedule right here. But, yeah, I mean –
man,
they gotta wait till the end of the season to see, really, because I think South Carolina State has the best shot to beat Delaware State. So if you're North Carolina Central, you got to wait till the end of the season to see if you make the Celebration Bowl. You don't have those weeks in between. So you got to just be handling your business and not focus on the rest. Because, I mean, they're still a talented team. I mean, Don't get me wrong. I mean, they struggled on third down. You can fix that. I think 4 of 12 on third down, North Carolina Central. So you can fix that. And you're playing a team like Delaware State, that's going to hurt you for anybody who's playing them, because that's a running attack that's going to take time off that clock. So if you're not getting your first downs, then that means they're going to stay on the field longer and your defense is going to be in that field longer. So, I mean, there's things they can fix and really compete the rest of this way. So you just got to fix what you can fix and not worry about what Delaware State's doing now.
Yeah, and the thing that I'll say, too, about Delaware State that I give D-Jack and his staff the flowers on again, they averaged 327 yards per game rushing coming into this. Now, North Carolina Central, you can see they made a concerted effort to try to keep them from running that ball, throughout the whole first half. They still rushed for 241 yards in this effort, which is still, it's below their average, but 241, you'll win a lot of games when you can run for 241 yards. But the thing I'll give them their flowers, man, is that all year, everybody said, "Oh, you guys struggle a little bit in the passing game. If they're gonna be had on offense, it'll be in the passing game." Yesterday, they put that to bed, man. So, shout out to Delaware State, man, getting that win. And next week, they don't have much time, man, because they got Norfolk State coming to the link, man. But speaking of Norfolk State, man, we'll get to the Howard game in a second. But speaking of Norfolk State, this was homecoming, man.
Yeah.
Talk about this one.
Yeah, I mean, this just isn't it's not really a good team. I mean, it's not no other way to put it. I mean, you look at who they played. They lost to Wofford. They were Wofford's first win. They lost to a Wagner team that's not good. They're just losing. Going into this season, I was like, okay, Coach Vic, first season, I'm looking at his schedule. I'm like, okay, it's not a lot of good teams in this non-conference slate. How he does in the MEAC, I don't know. But non-conference, this is a team that in a non-conference, you're supposed to be able to enter MEAC play, enter your homecoming game with a lot of momentum to really have that fan support, have that team momentum playing a South Carolina State that first game. They had none of that. So they still have none of that. I mean, 51-20, I mean, the morale of that team, I'm sure is super low right now. I mean, it's not much you can say. I mean, you're Coach Vic right now. You just got to be like, hey, talk to the AD like, hey, man, we're going to hit the portal hard this offseason at this point. It's not – I don't know what to say. I mean, they had a quarterback. Then they changed the quarterback back to a quarterback they didn't want to play in the beginning of the year. Now he's playing. It's the quarterback's been a problem since what's that, 2021? When they lost, they haven't been able to – I forget the guy's name, but it started with a J. But it's been a problem for them for years now. And, I mean, they just got to get somebody out there. It's a lot of problems with Norfolk State, man.
And, the thing that was so crazy about this game, Stan, is that Norfolk State, well, both teams had a bye week before this, but Norfolk, Mike Vick made changes to that defensive staff.
Yep, let some people go and made some changes. The changes led to 51 points, man. I don't know, man. Yeah,
and this game, like you see there, it got away in that second quarter. They scored 35 in that second quarter, and it just they sucked the life out of that building in that second quarter. Billy Atkins, now for with South Carolina State, they kept going back and forth with Stubblefield, Atkins, and they started Atkins in this one, and Atkins was phenomenal. I mean, 428 and 4 touchdowns. But we knew that South Carolina State, their calling card on offense, they struggle to run the ball, but passing is their thing. They can throw that ball, and he was throwing that ball to wherever, whatever they did, whatever they wanted to do. So with South Carolina State, here's their schedule for you, man. You see, they got Morgan State next week. Shout out to MEAC Mike. They got Morgan State next week, and you can see what they got coming ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, that Morgan State, that'll really show you if you can pass that ball like you have been. Because one thing about Morgan State is they're going to have them DBs ready to go for every week. So DBs, and they're going to have a pass rush. So that's one game you got to see if they can still pass. If they pass against them next 3 opponents, you got to be put on notice. Like, okay, if they can do that against Morgan State, what they about to do to us, man? So.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so, South Carolina State, man, the defending champs, they definitely looked the part yesterday. They coming on out. But, man, if you're Mike Vick, man, the rest of this schedule, oh, boy. I said a couple weeks ago on this show after they lost to Wofford, I said, could we possibly be looking at 1-11?
I mean, and you look at that one, that's Virginia State, which went to overtime. It went to overtime. I just came out with my rankings, and I had Norfolk State number 20 out of 21. And the only reason they're number 20 is because Virginia State isn't that school you didn't want to mention in that montage that Valley beat. So, I mean, at this point, you just got to hope when they play Delaware State, they keep it presentable. They don't embarrass themselves on national TV when they play in this night game on Thursday night, because you know the world's going to be watching. It's Deshaun Jackson versus Michael Vick. So you just got to hope, if you're Norfolk State, that you have some pride still at this point in the season and you come out there and show some fight, because I don't think they're going to stop that rushing attack we just talked about, but you got to have some pride and know that, hey, we're playing in an NFL stadium. You got to have some fight now.
He said Vic will have to take his beating this season and go get some guys. Yep, that's just like you said, Stan.
Yeah, they gotta hit that portal strong. I mean, you got the 757 area, so you know you're gonna get some people want to come play for Coach Vic.
Yeah, well, it's tough, man. 51-20. Now we go to the other homecoming affair in the MEAC, man. What a game this was. Now this game had everything. Now, those that didn't see this game, man, it was so crazy that Morgan State led this game. Now, MEAC might turn your head, brother. Turn your head. Morgan State led this game 27-21 late in the fourth. And you know what it really looked like, what I was sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, and this game had technical difficulties up to wazoo on ESPN Plus. So there, SWAC TV, it feel good. It was the ESPN Plus was screwing up left and right yesterday on this. Okay. So when the signal did come back, I just sitting there just thinking like, I said, what's Howard going to do to lose this game? That's what I just kept thinking. And then all of a sudden, Starks throws the touchdown pass, and they tie it. And then all they need to do is kick the extra point, and then they fumble the snap. And they go to overtime.
Them special teams for both teams just ridiculous. Whichever team would have made their extra point would have won that game in regulation.
Exactly. Both teams missed an extra point in regulation that made a difference. And then Anthony Reagan. Now this has been Howard's call all year. If you don't watch Howard, this is what Howard is. Howard, they struggle to throw the ball for the most part. When they win, they run the ball well, and they always play really good defense. They play tough on defense, right? This was a game where Tariq Starks, he had to make some throws. Now, 163 yards and 2 interceptions, you know, that's not going to, you know, definitely move the needle. But the fact that if you've been following these guys, Tariq Starks has had several games where he's thrown for under 100 yards. And he made that key touchdown pass that I thought was going to win him the game. But Anthony Reagan, it's either been Reagan and then Eden James. He's been hurt for just about most of the year. You know, at this point, who knows if he's going to come back. But Anthony Reagan's been their guy, and he was their guy on that first play of overtime. But if you're Morgan State, man, I got to ask you here now with Damon Wilson. You know, it's getting late in that tenure, brother. What do you think about Damon Wilson and Morgan State here?
I mean, he's kept them competitive, so that's better than, you know, the history of Morgan State, at least in the late 2010s. You know, so I don't know if his tenure is gonna be what they're gonna do with his tenure, but I feel like, you know, Damon Wilson should get at least one more year. I mean, see how it goes at least one more year and then go from there. Because, you know, one thing, he's at least has some consistency on one side of the football. So I think that's something you can kind of build off of, you know, when you're going to your season-ending meetings with those athletic directors. Say, hey, we got this side figured out. You don't got to worry about that. Just give me one more year. We're going to get this side figured out. I mean, when he was at Bowie State, the offense was explosive. So we still haven't seen that yet. So, I mean, hopefully he can find that within, you know, you give him at least one more year. I think he has at least one more year in his tenure, though. I don't think you can get rid of him that soon. He's a good coach, and he's recruiting well. So,
yeah, well, he said the Tyrone Wheatley curse. Hey, but, you know, if you're Howard, this is what Howard has now. Now, they got that all-important first victory, but you look who they got next week coming to Green Stadium. You know, you're going to have a very angry North Carolina Central group, you know, and they've got a tough road. Like, again, the MEAC is a 5-week sprint, but your thoughts about Howard, man, moving forward? Contender, or do you think they're just a placeholder right now?
That's a good question. I mean, do I think they can win these next 2 games? Would I pick them to win either of these next 2 games right now? No, I wouldn't, especially given, you know, it did take them to the last drives of the game to beat Morgan State. They did lose to a Tennessee State team that's not good. So I wouldn't really pick them to really be a contender. I mean, they can prove me wrong. I mean, it's only their second home game, right? So that could be a
first,
change.
Actually, the
well,
game
I mean,
they
North
played,
Carolina Central for that game.
Yeah, this one will be their second one. Yeah.
So they could prove me wrong. It's their second home game. They're undefeated at home right now.
It's gonna crucify Howard. Yeah, I mean, hey, anything can happen, man. I mean, look, the way these guys, they can play some defense. They're look, 1 week at a time. That's the best way I'll say it for Howard.
It would have been great to evaluate them by watching a lot of that game on ESPN Plus. I mean, even a game-winning touchdown. I'm trying to watch the game-winning touchdown in overtime. It's saying technical difficulties. And then next thing you know, I see Larry Scott giving a post-game interview. I'm like, oh, yeah. I guess Howard won. Like, how am I supposed to know what happened? And then luckily Howard did tweet out, the field view of that game-winning touchdown so you can go back and watch it. But, yeah, it was ridiculous, man, trying to watch that game. I'm trying to watch that game while watching other games at the same time. And at some point they had the video, no audio. So now I have to actually, keep my eyes on this screen and listen to another screen when I was trying to listen to that one because it's going back. It's some dead moments in there and it's just a mess. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, but shout out to Howard, man. They get the win. Now, I don't get a chance to mention these boys on this show too often because it's been a little bit of a tough run, but shout out to North Carolina A&T, man. Listen, Sean Gibbs, I tell anybody, I say it any time of the year. Sean Gibbs has done a tremendous job, man, with this group. Because the expectations, including from yours truly, I didn't really think that they would be able to win a game this year. I thought if they won a game, maybe they win one. But they found a way to win two. Now, the Hampton game that they won earlier, we know that was considered to be a lot of Hampton's undoing. But this game right here, these guys really went out and they took it. Like Elijah Kennedy, I mean, it's just crazy. A punt return and a kickoff return in the same quarter to win the game. And you see the length, 96-yard punt return and 85-yard kickoff. I mean, it's just the thing about North Carolina A&T that I give so much credit, man, is that even in the games that they're not winning, like the William and Mary game, they led late. The main game, they made very competitive. They played some really, really good games there. So, what are your thoughts about North Carolina A&T, man?
Yeah, 6 one-score games so far for them this year. That's a lot different since they joined the CAA. They've been bottom feeders in the CAA, and I mean that in a way as in they're not competitive in these games. Teams would go in to play North Carolina A&T and say, all right, back us, we're getting you some practice reps this week because we know you're going to go win in the second half. That's how they probably were practicing. And I've talked to some people who played at some of these other CAA schools, and they told me they don't take them seriously. But what Sean Gibbs is doing in his first year is making them competitive. And eventually those one-score games are going to flip. They won 2 of them by 1 score. You see this Campbell one. They fought hard in it and got some special teams plays, which is a sign of a team that's fighting hard because you can't return a kick or a punt without those guys who are the gunners, or the people on the personal protectors or any of those guys putting that effort in on what could be viewed as a meaningless play sometimes. So, I mean, that shows that Gibbs is really putting in the right stuff with his program and building it the right way that they're competing so well this early. So I like what I'm seeing from them. And I think eventually, not next year, but like 2 years from now, I think they can be a team where you could get some of those bubblings of could they be in a playoff picture by the time you get to the seasons in around this time in 2 years. Next year, I think, they got to get like 4 games. The year after, now they at 6. There we go.
Yeah, and you see those close games. Tennessee State could have went either way in the opener. They won the Hampton one. You see the Maine and William and Mary, the South Carolina State. So they've been playing really good. Now, Towson, that's going to be a little bit tough for them next week with Pete Shinnick and his group. But, you never know. That's still there at home in Truist Stadium. Stony Brook and Monmouth, yeah, and then Elon. But listen, regardless, man, these guys have had a really, really good season, and I'm really, really proud of the efforts that those guys have displayed, man. That's a good job. Shout out to you, Coach Gibbs and your staff, man, doing a heck of a job down there. So now let's switch over to the SWAC, man. All right, so Bethune-Cookman. Now I said week after week, if you had Bethune-Cookman right there in the thick of the SWAC East race here going into week number 10, if you had that, congrats to you, because no one else had it, man. So this was a win yesterday. Like it wasn't like the explosive types of offense that they've shown over the previous 5 weeks. This was one that they more so had to grind out, and that's shout out to a little bit of what UAPB was able to do defensively, giving them some different looks. But eventually that running game kind of took over. And Bethune-Cookman, man, don't look up now. You look at them, they're 3-1 in the SWAC, and next week they get Valley coming there. They're in position to possibly maybe we'll see. But your thoughts, man, about Bethune-Cookman and old Raymond Woody?
Yeah, SWAC East is wide open right now after what we saw this last week. Teams got to beat teams, but it's wide open. And I think Bethune-Cookman, I mean, Cam Ransom is doing the thing out there. I mean, you saw this week with his legs. He's done it with his arms in the past, put up numbers. I want to say it was Alabama A&M a couple weeks ago where he put up a big day. So, I mean, when you got a quarterback like that, that gives the whole team confidence. And when Ransom is showing that, okay, I might not throw for these touchdowns, but I can get it done with my legs at the same time. Now, these other teams, you got Valley next week, but when you get to these other teams that are more competitive in the SWAC, they now have to game plan for him to use his legs just as much as him attacking with a downfield passing attack, which now can open up a whole range of things with the offense. And I think with that offense, I think they can compete with almost anybody in that SWAC East. So we got to keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, and this is what they have going ahead. So you see, next week they get Valley at home. That's one that they, knock on wood, they should take care of. But then they go play at Grambling, and you see those last 3 at Grambling, at Jackson State, and then the Florida Classic is always the Florida Classic. And for these guys, man, for Bethune-Cookman, yesterday, and this is what my guy said. This is my Pine Bluff guy. He said this game 14-7 at the half. Yeah, Christian Peter overthrew at least 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Pine Bluff, they played a really good game, man. But, you look at what Bethune-Cookman has got in front of them. This is an opportunity. If they keep winning and they find a way to get these next 2, that game on 11-15 has got some definite intrigue into it. So, but yeah, man.
Could you imagine the Florida Classic being for the SWAC East title? Imagine we get in that situation.
Nobody would have had that. Nobody. It's, you know what, man? Anything is possible at this point, So, but yeah, shout out to Coach Raymond Woody, man. He's doing a good job down there. They just got to keep winning. They got to find a way to keep going. Now we go to my alma mater. The Magic City Classic. Yesterday, this was a tough day for my Bulldogs. Now, I do have to say this, man. Even though, I said that Alabama State, they destroyed us. They beat us up. But things that people need to understand is this is probably one of the most banged up teams A&M has really ever had in recent memory. Quarterback's injured. Quad Brown is probably not going to be back for the rest of the year with an injury. That was our QB1. Hanley, he was banged up. We've had injuries across both lines, offense and defensive line. One of our best threats offensively, Trevante Abner, our tight end, he's been gone with a foot injury. We've had key guys hurt all year. And this game right here, I knew that if you had Body as a thrower and a passer, if he was able to do both, it would be a long day. And the way we play defense, especially when you saw against Jackson State a few weeks ago, you knew that something was possible. Now, I didn't see 56-13 possible. But Alabama State, man, Andrew Body, he showed once again why he is one of the guys that could win SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. And he honestly, I just keeping it real. He hasn't been stopped by anybody yet. So these guys, Alabama State, the way they played yesterday, they showed you that they have the look of a potential championship winning team. Now, they've got their opportunities moving forward starting next week. But in a game like this, Alabama State, man, they took advantage of what was provided to them. And you saw that 616 to 143. That is not a typo. That was total domination. There'll be better days for my Bulldogs. But this was about Andrew Body and his group. You know, talk about Alabama State, man, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Body, I think he has to be the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year at this point. I mean, Jacoby Morgan, definitely, but the way Body has been playing in yesterday's performance, I mean, unfortunately, Morgan got hurt. I think you got to give it to Body at this point right now. And, I mean, I was on the call for the Alabama A&M game for their homecoming against Mississippi Valley State. And leading up to that, talking to Coach Shade and whatnot with Mo Carter on the call, we were talking about it. And he was saying they've been struggling against running quarterbacks. And if you look at that first half against Valley, Josh Brown, the quarterback for Valley, was having his way running the ball and taking advantage of open rush lanes, bad rush lanes from the defensive line, a little bit undisciplined, going into other gap, people doing the wrong job, people doing each other's jobs. So from watching that, I mean, you only could imagine what a quarterback like Body could do with all of his experience under center and whatnot, and a lot more talent around him. So that running quarterback has been a problem for Alabama A&M all season. But then you go back to that Alabama State team, I mean, it's just electrifying what they were able to do offensively. I mean, I saw some videos today of some of them celebrations they were doing. They were just out there having fun. I seen Body and crew shimmying in the end zone. I didn't even know he was a capper until watching that game. I'm like, oh, he out here shimmying. Now you got other people doing headstands like Jamison Williams in the end zone. I mean, they were just having fun. Just came out to Birmingham to have some fun, had a big party out there. I mean, they can play like that. They can beat anybody. Of course, they need some help now because, I mean, no, you said Body's been unstoppable. No one's been able to stop him. I'll challenge that, though. The offensive coordinators, they stopped him on that one play there. So, I mean, otherwise, he has been unstoppable except for that one play.
Yeah, and shout out to my boy Jay White, man. He keeps it real. He said Coach Shea needs to make changes. You're right. And you know the thing about A&M, you know, 4-4. I mean, obviously, listen, we're playing winning football. But you know, defensively, it's been a big struggle for us. And, you know, unfortunately for us, we've had to really try to outscore teams. And yesterday was just not our day. So 4 straight loss in the series. Obviously losing to your rival is something you never want to do. But listen, Coach Shade is going to get this ship righted. He is going to get it righted. You know, so I'm not really too concerned about the future of A&M football. Yeah, losing like this is not what you want, but the future is still bright for A&M football. But for now, this is about Alabama State and what their opportunities are moving forward. As you see, their schedule next week gets really thick as they go down to play Prairie View, and I'm looking forward to previewing this game for everybody next week, this week Wednesday. But man, you look at what they got in front of them. And of course, we'll get to all the scenarios here in the next segment. But you look at what they got in front of them, man. These next 2, and then you see those last 2. They've got some opportunities there.
And I wouldn't even sleep on that game 3 weeks from now against Valley. Even though it's in Mobile, I mean, that's still like, you can't sleep on those guys because you saw they can come out fast and make it a close one, and anything can happen. But yeah, against Prairie View, next week, that one, yeah, have your popcorn ready because, I mean, you got Eddie Robinson and then Tremaine Jackson. Those are two big figureheads when it comes to coaches these days. I'm excited to watch that one.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, shout out to the Hornets, man. Great game for them yesterday, and bigger fish ahead. And now we go down on the Bluff, and ooh, boy. Now, for 2 teams that wasn't really getting a whole lot of offense going, you saw a lot of offense in this game. And you tell me, FAMU Rattler Nation, where has Jamal Haley been all year? This dude, 19 rushes, $157, 3 touchdowns. I mean, and he had like 3 long breakaway runs in this one. And RJ Johnson, second week in a row, he's had his thing going. 22 of 32, almost 300 yards passing. He had a rush TD and everything. For Southern, it's a little bit too little, too late, man. You're giving Trey Holly the ball 26 rushes. We needed you to give Trey Holly the ball 26 times about 3-4 weeks ago. But, McNair took over, and there was something that was put out there that about the way things were with the offense, that that whether the questions were whether or not McNair was actually really calling the plays or not over the previous 3 games before Graves was dismissed. There was a question about that, but in this game, McNair did call the plays, and you saw a little bit different with the way the offense actually ran, but they still lost. And this was a little bit of the defense that really let them down, man. So, talk about this game, man.
Yeah, I mean, Haley's always shown that signs of explosiveness. I remember watching him against Albany State. He showed those signs, but I mean, it's crazy. The FAMU offense did better against Southern to me than they did against Albany State from D2, which if you're a Southern fan, that's got to be embarrassing to even hear that. But that's just how it looks. I mean, FAMU, if RJ Johnson, they're on a 2-game win streak, right? If RJ Johnson can continue to build this momentum from these last 2 games, this is a team that can scare some of the top contenders in the SWAC, in the SWAC East. I like what they're building right now. It's slow but steady. Maybe this is a team where, and even a coach with James Colsey, where, you got to get that pressure on him to get him to really lock in. I mean, people were saying he might be on the hot seat if he lost this game. People were saying he might be on the hot seat if he lost homecoming. And now, I mean, is he still on the hot seat? I don't know, because he's won 2 straight. But, I mean, maybe that pressure is what this team needed to really lock in. Maybe they needed a Lotto to come on campus. I mean, you got Lotto come on campus for homecoming. That can motivate anybody to win a game. So maybe her coming on campus really got them locked in and said, all right, we got to lock in as the Rattlers.
He said 2-0 after the students booed them.
They did boo them against Alabama. I heard them.
They did.
I heard they booed them.
Yeah, and this is what FAMU has. So next week, you got another opportunity against Jackson State coming to your house, and you see what they got moving ahead. So they had that Valley game pushed to the end of the schedule, so they're gonna have to play. I mean, FAMU, you're gonna have to keep winning. You dug this hole, so you're gonna have to keep winning. But hey, the last 2 weeks, we'll see. But yesterday, hey, for one day, hey, for 2 days. Offensively, they've looked really good. So we'll see if that can carry over to next week against the team that we're going to talk about right now, ladies and gentlemen. And oh, what a game this was in Vegas. First of all, I got to say again, as I said in the montage, prayers for my man Zay T-Set, because that was a scary scene there in the 4th quarter. We were able to see him, go away in the ambulance, and, hopefully he'll have a full and great recovery. So I want to say that. The second thing I want to say is this was a really good looking crowd out there in Vegas. It was really cool to see that on television down there. And HBCU Go, they always do a really, really good job with their production value. So this was a really cool spectacle for HBCU football. So for the game itself, man, wow. So I, like many people, thought that this was going to be a no contest game with Jackson State running over Grambling. And from that first drive, when you saw how Jacoby and Morgan took those guys right down the field, boom, 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 touchdown. It just had to look like these boys are a fine, well-tuned machine, and this is going to be no contest. And then he leaves the game. And, I saw the replays. I saw it again. I really couldn't tell exactly what it was. And then they said it was an ankle injury. But then when he left the game, to me, and everybody that's watching this here in the comments, to me, it looked like Jackson State, after he left the game, it looked like they found out, oh, he's not coming back. It looked like there was a total shift of their emotion. Like they needed to be refocused in some way, shape, or form. And Grambling, they took advantage of some uncharacteristic defense that Jackson State had. The touchdown to Knighton on the big explosive play, losing him in coverage. That was something that was not characteristic. Also turnovers. And something that I've said a lot on my show here. I've always said, I know how fans, they love to say, well, we're playing so great, nobody's going to beat us. And the way Jackson State looked, even on that first drive, they looked apart. But one thing that can happen is that there can be key injuries. You can turn the ball over. You can do certain things that can make teams that you really should be able to beat. They stay in the game, and then something like this happens. And the last thing I'll say on this point, too, before I turn it over to you, Jared Lockhart, he came into this game. He did really well in that fourth quarter. But I got to say this to the people, because I had some people, they reached out to me on Twitter and they said, you should ask, why was Jared Lockhart not in the game earlier instead of instead of Parker Stofa? And the thing that I'll say for this is that if Parker Stofa leads you guys to a win, you guys aren't talking about Jared Lockhart. You guys are talking about Parker Stofa. And also, the thing that I also need to say, too, and shout out to my guy TC, because that is my guy, I got to say is you got to trust in his judgment. I think that he's earned the right as your head coach and his track record as a head coach. He's earned the right for his decision-making to not be questioned there. I mean, there's a reason why Parker Stofa was in that game versus Jared Lockhart. And also, the thing I got to give him credit for is that he switched to Jared Lockhart. How many coaches do you know would be stubborn in that standpoint, seeing a quarterback struggle and stick with that guy? You see what I'm saying? And I like what William Graves says here. He said TC is a championship coach, but he's human. Yeah, he is. So I turn it over to you, man. Your thoughts. I know you got a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to that quarterback point, to start there, pick up where you left off, I mean, like you said, you got to trust in Coach TC, because even last year he made the switch from Cameron McCoy to Jacobian Morgan, and he had switches like that at quarterback. He has a proven track record of picking the right quarterback. And, I mean, even in that game, the way he managed the quarterback pick, I mean, Jackson State still was leading when you got to the final stages of that game, even with the backup quarterback. I mean, you'll see in my rankings who's the number one team. It's still Jackson State, because this is a team without a starting quarterback that still was leading. And that's a good sign for a team, I mean, that still controls its own destiny, right? So if you're Jackson State, you still have to be confident that, okay, we lost with our backup quarterback playing all but one drive of this game. That's a good sign. I mean, they did go punt as soon as Morgan went out. But, I mean, obviously, if I would have confidence based off of seeing what you saw in that second half, that if you get a full week of practice with whoever's the backup quarterback, that they'll be able to compete with a lot of these teams in the SWAC. And then on the other side for Grambling State, this is a win where, you did lose your starting quarterback, but to be able to show that resilience throughout the end of the game and go down and drive with a game-winning field goal even after your quarterback got hurt, that's something you can continue to build off of as well.
Yeah, and and the thing that I'll say too about, we'll talk about how this game, and it's funny, he's reading my mind. 4th and 9. This is exactly where I was going. I want to talk about just the end of that final segment after the injury. Shout out to Darrensburg, man. Like, he was third. Darrensburg is a third stringer. Their backup quarterback, if you hadn't seen, 2 games ago against Texas Southern, Ashton Fry, he was carted off the field in that game. He started and played most of that game against Texas Southern, 2 weeks ago. So Darrensburg, he's your third string guy, and he's thrust into that situation where he makes that throw on the sidelines. Now, a lot of people are saying, there were some people saying that wasn't the catch. The one on the sidelines. And my thing is, well, hey, the booth could have reviewed it. If they thought it was questionable, the booth should have reviewed it. At that point, that's something that wasn't called. So it is what it is. But the play of the game was when Darrensburg makes that play to convert that first down. That's just what it was for me. That's where it was. That play that he makes right there. If Jackson State, you make that one stop, that's the game. And I said, okay, but even still, after he converts that first down, I'm still thinking, okay, you had an extra point blocked. You missed a field goal earlier, talking about Grambling. You remember that the field goal they missed earlier, it was the snap was a little questionable, the laces were facing and things like that. So I was still saying, well, the field goal is still not a sure thing. And even leading up until when that kick left McCormick's foot, it was still kind of in doubt for me. But shout out to that kid with ice in his veins, with all the pressure to make that kick. And now if you look at Mickey Joseph, 2 years in a row, he's found a way to be victorious over Jackson State. Say whatever you want about the rest of his tenure. The fact that he was able to beat Jackson State 2 years in a row, man, that's something has to be said about that. But for now, we turn the page now to Jackson State, okay, and moving forward. If Jacobian Morgan is not going to be able to play next week, and it looks like you probably would think he's not going to play next week. If he misses extended time, things have definitely changed. And this is what they've got ahead. Obviously, they go to FAMU next week, which for people, if you watched, I've been saying it for a while. I said that 2-game stretch could be a very interesting and could be a crucial stretch. One, because of the fact that you had a long trip out to Vegas and you have a long trip back to Mississippi. But then on a little bit of a shorter week now, you're going back down on another road trip going to FAMU, and FAMU is playing different. So the trajectory about with or without Morgan moving forward, in your thoughts, Stan?
Yeah, excuse me, but I think it all comes down to the defense, right? I mean, even without Morgan against Grambling, I mean, if you would have told Coach TC, okay, we lose our starting quarterback, but we're winning and our defenses on the field have a chance to end this game, I'm sure he would have taken that. And the defense didn't step up and end the game when they had a chance on that 4th and 9 and elsewhere throughout that second half. They had multiple chances where they could have taken control of the game. So now when you go and play at FAMU, this is a FAMU team that, yes, it's picking up and it's playing the right way in these last 2 games, but you still have those earlier in the season things with RJ Johnson where they're struggling offensively. I mean, that Alabama State game still comes to mind with their struggles offensively, not being able to really move the ball at all on that defense. I mean, you would assume this Jackson State defense is better. They got Quincy Ivory coming off the edge. There's nobody in the SWAC really pass rushing like him. So that defense has to step up now. Mm-hmm. If you're in that defensive side of the locker room, you have to be motivated to say, hey, we don't have to worry about who's at quarterback because they're not going to score a point. You can't lose if the other team doesn't score. So it really comes down to that defense this week at Florida A&M, because defense is that one thing. It doesn't matter how far you travel and all that. That's supposed to travel regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now here's what we have now. I'll go. Yeah, is giving you yeah, Stan's right on it. There is. That's a great point, man. Real good point. So now here we go. We'll go to the standings. We'll go to the standings, and then we'll go to the scenarios. And then I'll go to my ride tokens, and then we'll go into the next week's schedule. So here's the updated schedule. Here's the updated standings, everybody. Here we go. SWAC East. We'll go to SWAC East, and then we'll do the West, and then we'll do the MEAC. All right. So here we go. In the East, you see Jackson State still sitting there now. They still control their own destiny there. So you see they're 3-1 in the league. And you see they're 1-1 in games against the West, and they got the 2-0 in the East. So you see where they sit. Alabama State, and then you see Bethune-Cookman sitting there at 3-1, right there in position for both of them. All right. And then here you go, FAMU sitting there 2-1 now. They're right there with a chance. Okay. And then for Alabama A&M and then for Valley, we'll see what you guys can do the rest of the way. All right. So that's what the East looks like, and we'll explain that in a little bit. Okay. And Crook says that's a 3-way tie. Nah, you can say what you want. Jackson State still controls their own destiny. That means that they're really the control car. Okay, and then we go to the West, and there was no change with the top two because Prairie View, they played a non-conference game yesterday, so they're still at 4-2 or 4-0 and 6-2 overall. And then Texas Southern, they had a bye week yesterday, so next week they'll play Alcorn, and you know what it is. They need 2 losses from Prairie View to make this thing work. And everybody else, unfortunately, is really just playing out the rest of their string. You got a 2-horse race out there in the West. And then here in the MEAC, it's early going, but you can see Delaware State, South Carolina State, and Howard out to a 1-0 start. And you see it's going to be progressive. You got 4 more weeks of a sprint coming. So that's what it looks like in those. Now we go over here to the SWAC scenarios. Okay, so this thing changed from what it was last week. Okay, so the title game, if the season ended today, it would be Jackson State at Prairie View. Last week, it was the other way around. So now Prairie View would be the host team because they're unbeaten in SWAC play. Obviously, we got a long way to go. We still got like 5 weeks of games left. Okay, but this is what it would look like if it ended today. All right, the easiest way that Jackson State would host if they won the East, at this point, they need to win all the rest of their games and have Prairie View lose twice. That's the easiest way. Another way that it could happen is if Prairie View loses once and Jackson State wins out, and Jackson State is ranked in the FCS poll, because that would be another tiebreaker. Okay, so Prairie View, the best way you can win and host is if you just win the rest of your games. If you finish unbeaten in SWAC play, hey, the game will be down there in Prairie View. All right, so that's the SWAC title game scenario. Now we go here to the West. This is as of today, and this is the same as it was last week. There was no movement. Texas Southern didn't play. Prairie View didn't play a conference game. This is the same as it was last week. Prairie View, they need to win. They can win the next 3 games. And this is also assuming if Texas Southern also wins their next 3 games. Okay, if you win the next 3 games and Texas Southern does also, you will clinch the West, because that way you will get to 7 wins, and the best that Texas Southern can do is have 7 wins. Okay, and then also knowing what we know about the rest of their schedule, even if they finish 2-2 in their last 4 games, Texas Southern can still lose one of those final 4 games and you still win the West. And then you see the case of Texas Southern, they got to finish 1 game ahead. It doesn't matter how it happens. You need Prairie View to lose at least twice, and you need to win out pretty much. Okay. And now, my friend Stan, here's where it gets very interesting. We go to the East. All right. Jackson State, you control your own destiny. Okay. Here's how, and now mind you, I'm explaining this in the easiest way possible. Okay. I'm not getting into all of the extra, the tiebreaker this, tiebreaker that, like I could. I'm not doing that yet because this is far too early for that. But this is the easiest way that you can win if you're Jackson State, and this is for everybody on this list. All right, so they control their own destiny. If they win their next 4 games, scot-free, you're in, okay? Because that means you'd eliminate FAMU and Bethune-Cookman on head-to-head wins. And even if Alabama State won the rest of their games, you own the tiebreaker on Alabama State. So Jackson State, you win out, you win the East. Period. Alabama State, if you win your last 4 games and you get 1 more Jackson State loss, you would win the tiebreaker, over BCU if BCU wins out. Because remember, they beat Bethune-Cookman head-to-head. So one more Jackson State loss and 4 wins by Alabama State, they would win the East. Bethune-Cookman, you're in the position now with that loss yesterday by Jackson State. It got a little bit easier for them. They need to win their last 4 games, and that includes beating Jackson State and FAMU. And they would need to have Alabama State lose at least once. Because like I said before, they lost to Alabama State head-to-head. So if they win their last 4 and they have Alabama State lose at least once, that would mean that you would beat Jackson State and FAMU, and they would win the East. And then last but not least, welcome to the party, FAMU. If you win your final 5 and you have Alabama State lose at least once, because remember, they lost to Alabama State, they would win the tiebreaker over Bethune-Cookman and Jackson. And well, Jackson State wouldn't matter if they beat Jackson State because Jackson State would have 2 losses. But they would win out over Bethune-Cookman and all that good stuff. So here's what you got, man. You got a jumbled mess. The East, we always talk about Wild Wild West. Now we got Wild Wild East. Talk about it, man. What you think?
I mean, I think once we see this Alabama State Prairie View game this week, that's going to really shake things up, whether it's on the West or East. So whatever one we got there, that's going to shake it up. Jackson State, I mean, it does depend on Morgan's health, right? If Morgan's not healthy by the time they get to Bethune-Cookman, it might be a situation. I'm not saying I'm doing it now, but when we get closer, I might be picking Bethune-Cookman to beat a Jackson State without Morgan based off of the way that the Bethune-Cookman offense is playing right now. But that's a couple weeks away, so we don't know yet. So they got to get Morgan back healthy for this final stretch for sure. And then Alabama State, honestly, I don't see them losing. So if I'm Jackson State, I'm like, I got to win. You lost all your leeway. You had one. You lost it in Vegas. You had one to gamble with. I'm used to that. I play blackjack all the time. I go to see a casino. There's no casinos in Atlanta where I live. So anytime I see a casino, I go play blackjack. And I'm one, I get 16, hit it. And that's exactly what Jackson State did in Grambling when they played in Vegas. They said, we got one, we going to hit. It just so happened the dealer pulled out a king. So now Jackson State, they don't got any more to gamble with. They on their last $10 chip on a $10 table. They got to go ahead and make sure they play it safe and win all the rest of their games.
Yeah, this thing got real interesting, man, after yesterday's game. So, but yeah, you're Jackson State. You know, you still control your destiny, but man, whew, you got to keep it going, man. So, hey, next week is another week. All right, so that's where it is on the scenarios. And then here are my weekly ride tokens, okay? These are my 4 guys that get on the ride token list. All right, so I went with Andrew Body, 18 to 24, 304 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and he had 66 additional rush yards and a TD. So you see 370 total yards and 6 touchdowns in the victory over Alabama A&M. Najee Lally, Delaware State, 5 catches, $124 and 3 big touchdowns. He gets the second token this week. Billy Atkins, man, South Carolina State, 24 out of 36, 428, 4 touchdowns. He gets the third token this week. And I gotta go special teams token this week. Elijah Kennedy, sir, North Carolina A&T. Shout out to you, big dog. 96-yard punt return for a touchdown, 85-yard kickoff return, TD, both in the fourth quarter to get the 4th ride token. What are your thoughts about these ride tokens this week, man?
I like that you put special teams on there. That's for sure. And I knew you had to pick somebody from Delaware State. I would have picked Gillis at running back, but you convinced me with how you talked about, they had to open up the pass game. And I mean, I did see that play, a Lolly taking what was that, a bubble screen he took all the way to the house? So
yeah.
I mean, I like that pick too. And then of course Atkins, 4 touchdowns, opened up MEAC play, always a good deal.
Yeah, so those are my ride tokens for this week number 10. And we got a big week coming up next, man. So I've got my week 10 schedule right here. We'll finish the show with this. All right, this is the Week 10 schedule, everybody. So now all SWAC teams are playing this week. Great, and they're all playing each other. So you get 6 SWAC games. All right, so you've got Southern going to UAPB. That'll be on SWAC TV. You've got Valley going down to play Bethune-Cookman. That'll also be on SWAC TV. You got Alabama A&M visiting the Hole to play Grambling. They've beaten Grambling 3 straight times, but we'll see what it is. We'll see who's at quarterback for both teams on SWAC TV in the Hole. The HBCU Go game this week will have Alcorn taking on Texas Southern, who comes off their bye week. So that'll be going on down there in Shell Energy Stadium in Houston. The big one this week, Alabama State going down there to play Prairie View. That'll be on SWAC TV. Wish it was on HBCU Go. Wish it could have been on maybe ESPN Plus. But you know what? SWAC TV, that is a coup for you because everybody's going to watch that. And then you've got the game going on in Tallahassee where you've got Jackson State looking to get back in the winner's circle, going to play a surging and confident FAMU team. That'll be on ESPN Plus. So you'll get Tiffany Green and Jay Walker calling that game on ESPN Plus. All right. And then I'll get your thoughts here on this in a second. We'll go over the remainder of the schedule. We've got the MEAC play this week. You've got Norfolk State and Delaware State getting it on there in Philly on Thursday night. That'll be on ESPNU. You got North Carolina Central looking to get back in the winners column as they visit Howard. And you got Morgan State going to play South Carolina State. Then Big South OVC, Tennessee State, they welcome Lindenwood. And then the CAA, Hampton has a bye week, and North Carolina A&T, they welcome Towson. All right, so let's switch back to the SWAC here. Quick thoughts, man, on this schedule here in the SWAC next week.
Yeah, that Alabama A&M Grambling game is interesting. Like you said, don't know who's going to be a quarterback there for either team. But, I mean, if Quad Brown does come back for Alabama A&M, I think they might knock off Grambling. They might be riding a little high after coming back from Vegas, even though they're at home. Mm-hmm. Jackson State FAMU, of course, that's going to be a good one to watch. And then, like you said, that SWAC TV game. I'm not sure who's on the call for that Alabama State or Prairie View A&M, but I'm sure there'll be some good people for that one. That one should be a good one. I'm hoping they got the best crew. I got a chance to work with a couple of different crews for those SWAC TV games, and there is a difference in some of the crews. So I'm hoping they got the best crew on there for that SWAC TV game. And apologies to all those FAMU fans for that first game I was on where they put that commercial during one of those touchdowns. That's not going to happen. I'm going to guarantee that's not going to happen for this Alabama State Prairie View game. There will be no commercials during any touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's what's up, man. And then we go over here to obviously that one Thursday. I hope a ton of people watch that game Thursday night, man. You got 2 old friends, 2 former teammates. They requested to get this game in Philly. So, they're going to play down there in Philly, man. So I hope it's a great showing for HBCU football with Delaware State playing Norfolk. And then, your thoughts about the rest of this here, man.
Yeah, I think people should watch it. I mean, they'll have first take there during the week. So hopefully that gets to bring some audience to ESPNU. I know people say ESPNU doesn't get a lot of the numbers. They're not on the default cable stations or whatnot. But hopefully that first take audience can transfer over. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But North Carolina Central at Howard, that one stands out to me the most. Chris Mosley might have a big day. He might get, I think 200 total yards, 200 total yards, 3 touchdowns for Chris Mosley. Probably going to happen against Howard. Morgan State, South Carolina State, have no idea how that game's going to go because South Carolina State has played down to its opponents multiple times this year. They lost to Charleston Southern. I'll keep emphasizing that. South Carolina State lost to Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern is not a good team. I don't know how good South Carolina State is because everyone they played is either good and they've blown them out or bad and they played close to their competition. Last week was the first time we've ever seen South Carolina State this year play above and not stoop down to its competition level. So I don't know how they're going to play this next week. And then Tennessee State, probably going to lose. A&T, I don't know because that's a freshman quarterback at Towson. So the way they've been keeping it close with those close games, they might be able to pull off an upset. I wouldn't bank on it, but there's a chance because that is a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, so that's the schedule for next week. All right, so Stan, as we close tonight with you, you're releasing your rankings tomorrow.
Well, the rankings are out, but they don't post the graphics until Tuesday. And a lot of people, they don't like to read the article. So I'm going to just wait till Tuesday. The rankings are out, but most people will probably see it on Tuesday when that graphic comes out. I try to pitch to them to, put the stuff out on Sunday, get it out ahead of all the other, like the regular FCS rankings. It's beyond me at this point. But yes, on Tuesday, you'll see the graphic. There is a change in the top three. I'm not going to say which one is the top three there. So,
yeah, my boy Vic said we going to drag FAMU. You better hope so. He's JSU guy.
They got to get up early on FAMU. If they don't get up early on FAMU, they might lose. Because they get up early, I tell you what, I was in the booth for one of them FAMU games, and the way Bragg Stadium is set up, they have the student section sitting in the sun. So if it's not close, the students will leave. So you have to get up early on them. So they will leave after the band performs at halftime. That's the key to beating FAMU at home. I figured out the secret.
Yeah, well, that game will also be a 7 p.m. start, so it's night game.
Oh, it's a night game.
Yeah, night game. So
just hope they got some parties at Flight, man.
So so I was going to ask everybody. I was going to ask you this to tell the people. So Jerome wants to know, how can we follow Stan? So tell the people, man, before you get out of here, tell the people where they can follow you, man.
So you can just search me on Twitter or on any social media, just Stan Becton. On Twitter, it's an underscore between Stan and Becton. On all the other ones, it's just even. I couldn't change it. I was too deep into Twitter by the time I realized I should have got rid of underscore.
Well, Stan, man, this is the first time you and I have ever worked together, and I've meant to work with you for a while, and I appreciate you taking the time and just contributing to the show tonight. And, we definitely going to work some more because, man, I come to the Celebration Bowl. I know you'll be there. So I'll be there doing media, and, we got to definitely get up, man, do some more work here in the future because I had a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you for coming on tonight and doing this with me, man.
Thanks for having me. I got to get to Radio Row. I still haven't been to Radio Row for Celebration Bowl. Every year I just forget to, put that extra check mark on my credential. And every year they're like, nah, you can't come in here with this credential. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, come on, man. Come visit me, man. I'm in there, man. I was in there last year. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you, big dog. And, man, we're going to get up. We definitely going to get up. We're going to have to exchange information and all, text and all that stuff. So we'll get up, man. Appreciate you, dog.
Appreciate you as well.
All right. We'll see you, man. All right. That's my guy, Stan Becton, joining me tonight. And so that's what we got tonight, man. And yeah, here's where you can find him at Stan_Becton. All right. So tonight was a great show. We had a lot going on. Next week, as I showed you, we got another very stacked schedule with everybody in the SWAC playing, everybody in the MEAC playing. Pretty much everybody of the 21 teams that we cover on this program are playing with the exception of Hampton. So we got 20 teams in effect next week. Now, this coming Wednesday night, I'm going to have Des Barnes, Pretty Girls Love Sports. She's going to be my guest star on the show here on Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. That'll be the preview for a very stacked week number 10. And obviously, we'll get it started a little bit early with a Thursday game this week. But I appreciate everybody, as always. Make sure you hit the like button. If you're watching me for the very first time, make sure you subscribe and share this show with folks, man. And just remember, man, I'm a fan of everybody. Every single team that's out here. Does not matter. We love the culture. We love the games. We love the media. We love it all, man. So God bless everybody. I'll see you next week on Wednesday.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.